everybody. Welcome to Attitudes with Andy. Mwah. If you're watching on video, holla.
Hello.
If we're in your ears, hola.
Hello.
Hello. Today, I'm very excited for this episode because we have a beautiful human on.
Thank you.
We voice noted each other, and that's when I knew the vibes were there.
Just clicked like Lego. Just went together.
Just went together. And he also lives with a sausage dog, or you own a sausage dog.
I saw your story. I was like, it's a must. It has to happen.
Now, I do have to let you know, I don't own that dog.
Oh no.
I live with
I'm gonna
the
leave.
dog.
I'm gonna leave.
I catfished him. But yes, anyway, so today we are with a mindset coach who has a wealth of experience and knowledge from being a business owner and then transitioning into more helping coach people with their mindsets and going after what they really want. He has a lot of things that we can talk about, and we had a pre-call and I was like, oh my God, I want to talk about this. No way, I want to talk about this. But I've kind of had a think about it. And I would love to kind of talk about, first of all, like finding what you want to go after.
Oh, beautiful.
Facing your fears, sending it, overcoming yourself, and just like execution. You know what I'm talking about?
Great topics.
Great
and they
topics.
Just flow into each other. They tie into each other. Juicy stuff.
Juicy stuff. So welcome to the podcast, Lewis Huckstep.
Killed it.
Yes.
And every time I have a guest, I'm like, I have to practice it like 3 times, and then I normally screw it up anyways when I introduce them. So, nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Frick yeah. The first thing I would like to talk about, and I don't know if this is for any particular reason, but I was, just chilling in the studio. I'd had a podcast like an hour or so ago, so I was just like, chilling, recharging.
Nice.
And then I suddenly checked my phone and I've gotten these messages, and you're like, hey, just let you know I am here. I'm just in my car doing work. But you were like 15, 20 minutes early? How early were you?
About 20. I had this same thing happen last week when I went to a different podcast. I had a sales core strategy call, and it was like, if I finish it, I won't have enough time to drive here.
Oh.
So it's like I did it in the car. And so I did it last times, and I'm always I'd rather be 15 minutes early than 15 minutes late. So I generally rock up early to most things.
Okay, so what's the theory behind being early to things?
It depends how deep you want to go on it. It actually probably comes from a bit of wounds when I was younger with my dad. If I was ever late with dad, it was quite painful. It was I remember whenever I had to be ready for him, I'd be like out the front of the house and front of the driveway waiting. If I was like a minute late, he would yell at me, and to get real deep on you, that's probably where it's come from, to be honest.
Well, I did not expect that answer. No, fair enough though.
That's where it's come from.
Yeah, I like it. I like this being early. That's something I'm trying to cultivate.
Yeah, but
Is it happening? Not really.
It will.
It will.
It will.
We're getting better. The other day I was 3 minutes early for something and I was like, I am
Killing life.
the goat. Okay, so first thing I would like to delve into, a lot of my audience is aged 22 to 25, very specific, but
Beautiful.
That's what Spotify told me.
Fantastic.
And that is definitely the age of like having just graduated, not really knowing what to do. I had a friend message me the other day and he was like, honestly, I'm just feeling a bit lost. I don't know what my passion is, what my interests are.
What a good conversation.
What a great conversation.
Great conversation.
How does one go about that when they feel really lost and confused on which direction to go?
That's such a beautiful question, and I don't think it's had enough, to be honest. I think more people are having the conversation, but I guess the stem of the problem is very much the conditioning that we go through. You go through the education system and you're very molded into go to school, go to university or TAFE, get a job, get a mortgage, work hard for 30, 40 years, get a superannuation, retire and die. And that's kind of the cookie cutter mold for most people. And if you want to be successful, you go to university, get a higher paying job for most people. And that was me. I repeated year 12 to do the same thing. And I wanted to be a teacher. That was the goal at some point. And so I was like, why don't I just go try be a teacher? So when it was a teacher aide at my old school, it's actually quite funny. I graduated and the next year I was a teacher aide there.
Nice.
Quite a funny story. And anyways, like I enjoyed some of it, but I was like, I don't enjoy 90% of this job. Like I like 10% of it, the teaching part of it, but I don't actually enjoy much of it. And I guess along that part, I got into the self-development sort of rabbit hole and started talking about self-development, limiting beliefs, trauma, what's your purpose in life, what are your values in life. So I guess to cut to the answer of your question, it's getting really clear on what someone's purpose is. It's understanding what your values are, what's meaningful to you, and then designing a life around that. And that's something that I just truly believe is possible for everyone. If you want to, if you choose to, you can build a life where you only do things you love doing. And that sounds kind of bullshit, airy-fairy for some people, but there's people doing it right now. Why can't you? Like, if you get clear on what are the things that actually light you up, that you think about, that you talk about, that energizes you, and you build a life where you only do that, delegate the rest, systemize the rest. You can have a calendar. Like, remember Christmas when we were younger? I'm not sure if you're still like it. Maybe you are. You seem like you're quite a funny gal. You probably still get up like that. But it's it's like you couldn't sleep. Like, you're like itching to get out of bed, and you jump out of bed, run to see the Christmas tree. It's like, I get like that some days with what's on my calendar. It's like it's Friday. I've got a client in Canada that I do an early morning call with on a Friday morning, 5:15 a.m. sesh with her.
Nice.
And like I get out of bed at 4:30. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm about to go change someone's life. I'm about to do something I'm really passionate about doing. And you can do that for yourself, whatever that may be. And it's getting one clear on who you are, which is your values, and also your purpose, which is, I guess, the question you're asking. And then asking this question or answering this statement. When what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you will do your life's best work. And when I heard that, it's like a light bulb just went off in me. I was like, wow, what's the fullest expression of me? And then you work backwards from there. If it is to coach people, if you're an artist, if you're a dancer, if you like writing poetry, if you love singing, whatever it may be, then finding a vehicle that allows you to live that, whether it's you work, because not everyone, I believe, is made to be an entrepreneur or has the makeup to be one. You can be an entrepreneur and work for another business, etc. But finding what that fullest expression is, and then finding the vehicle that allows you to do that, and then doing that every single day. And it's your question is just, most people just don't ask it. Like, do you actually love what you do? And some people say, yeah, I kind of do. If I gave you $1 billion, would you still do it? Most people would say no. So it's like, yes, you might love some parts of it, and you're probably in your head because maybe you spent 4 years going to uni, or maybe you're going to uni right now for that age bracket. But it's like, would you actually do it for free? And if you can't honestly say yes to that, then it's not what you love. You might love parts of it because you think it's a good job, it's good pay, it's what you've been conditioned to do. But if money wasn't a factor and you wouldn't keep doing it, then it's something else. And if you answer what that would be, what would you do if money wasn't a factor, and then commercialize that, life's good. So
fuck yes.
That's kind of the answer.
Can you please repeat that quote?
When what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you will do your life's best work. So when you understand, so for me, my highest value is coaching. I love coaching, hence I'm a coach. And when I'm coaching, I feel alive. I feel confident. My self-worth is high. I feel energized. I feel inspired. So if I build a life where I get to coach a lot of the time, not all the time, there's obviously more things that light me up than just coaching. But if I get to coach a lot, I delegate the things I don't like doing. I don't like emails too much. I don't like video editing. We're talking about that before. I hate video editing. So I hire a VA to do that. So I don't want to do that. So it's like, that's not my thing. I'm not passionate. I'm not fulfilled doing that. So it's like, you do it, you delegate it, you can link it, which is another conversation, or you just don't do it because you don't actually want to do it. So yeah, that's the answer.
Huge. I love that. And then if people are like, yeah, but I don't know the thing that lights me up, is it more a case of just like, because I always say like, try the different ice cream flavors.
Good.
It's
that's
like,
same analogy.
You don't know if you're just like, no, I only like vanilla, but you haven't tried any of the ice cream flavors.
Yes.
You might be a peanut butter chocolate gal, which by the way slaps. So is it like a case of allowing yourself the space and the time to explore these different things?
I think it's a combination of both. I'll give you another answer to that. I love that you use that example. It's the same one I use. It's like going up to Baskin & Robbins and saying, that's my favorite flavor, but you haven't tried the other 50.
Yeah.
It's like, so I use the same example, which is cool. So the other answer is, I use values a lot. I've already said it like 5 times in this podcast. But there's a formula or a process to figure out what your values are. I've got a free YouTube video on it. If you don't go watch it, just type in Lewis Huckstep values on YouTube and you'll be able to find it. There's a way to determine them. So it's instead of just sort of search until you find it, it gives you a bit more consciousness of what it is, and then you can sort of head in that direction.
Okay.
So there's a values determination process. So I think there's 12 questions. It's like, what do you think about? What do you talk about? What do you spend your money on? What do you visualize about? What goals have stayed consistent with you? What do you talk about in social settings? What energizes you? What do you do in your spare time? What do you spontaneously get inspired to do? I think I got most of the questions. I'll miss a couple. Where are you most organized in life? It's another one. And when you answer them, categorize them, and then label them in your values, it gives you awareness of what you enjoy. So number one for me is coaching, as I said. Number two is learning. Number three is wealth. They come from your voids. That's another conversation though. But that gave me, okay, well, that's what's important to me. And then I can start to try those flavors that are in that general direction. So coaching, I wanted to be a teacher. You can see how teaching and coaching can kind of go a bit hand in hand. And yeah, so that would just be my sort of, I guess, variant to that question. That answer is yes, try things, definitely try things but instead of just say, oh, I'm going to go be a barista, then I'm going to go be a coach or a teacher or go work in the mines or go painting, and just trying these sort of random things that just kind of come to you. By understanding your values first, then you can start doing things in those areas. It's going to increase the chances that you kind of hit the money or hit the target.
Yes. Okay. I love that. That's like combining the both. Yeah. Okay. So for example, like me, I get re-energized off people. I love like teaching people or like empowering people. So then you would go something that is around people and not like solo.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Find things that generally, like you said, and if you just answer some of those broader questions, what do you enjoy? What do you talk about? What do you think about? What energizes you? And then find a career pathway or a business model like what we're doing here, like a vehicle that allows you to do that, where you're teaching, because you're teaching and learning at the same time on this podcast. You're obviously meeting people, interviewing people on this. So yeah, figure out what you enjoy doing and then find those sort of vehicles or pathways that allow you to do those things.
Huge. Okay. Whew. All right. So say somebody is like, okay, I think that I know what I want to do kind of, but I'm really fucking scared. I'm so terrified and I don't feel like taking the action to do it. First of all, is that normal? And second of all, how do you overcome that?
There's a quote I love. It's what's normal isn't natural. If you just kind of think about that, I'm like, what people think is normal isn't natural. So it's like, it's some people say it's normal to be a certain way in relationships. But it's like, is that what's natural in a relationship? From if we were to take away the shitty beliefs, the trauma, the wounds, it's like, are we acting of that through bad conditioning, through our upbringing? So I guess is it normal? Yeah, I guess it's normal. I think a lot of people experience that. Is it natural? When we were cavemen and women, were we scared to go out and start chasing our dreams? I don't know. I wasn't around back then, but I'd say because of the, I guess, social media and the upbringing and the conditioning that we do go through, I think a lot of people do get fearful of failing because you can get ridiculed on social media. You can get fear of failing and embarrassing yourself in front of others. So I think it's very, I guess, normal. I went through it. I definitely had that. How to overcome it? There's a couple of things. There's the main one for me is it's the cliche one, but you just do it. Is like the fear you're coming up with is greater than the actual action of what you're doing. Like oh my God, the pain, the hurt, the embarrassment. It's all, we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. We think it's going to be so scary. I'm going to get ridiculed. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to fail. And it's like, all of that is worse than doing the actual thing itself. So it's like, oh my God, what if I go to the gym and I feel nervous and I get judged and people laugh at me and I don't know what I'm doing? It's like, you've just suffered all in your head before you've even done anything. And then generally, most of the time when you go and do it, it was like nothing compared to what we made up in our own head. So one answer is obviously just get started, do it. Two would be who you hang around. So you hang around. One of the most overused quotes is you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around. So making sure that you're hanging around people that are going after their dreams, then they're taking action. Because if you're hanging around people that are pessimistic, really nervous, super anxious, super scared, making excuses, not doing anything, you're going to become like them. They're going to reinforce those decisions. You're going to say, hey, look, I'm thinking about starting my podcast. No one's going to fucking listen to you, mate. What are you talking about? You're going to give up. You're not going to last. Like, they're just conditioning you for that shit. So making sure that you're obviously very conscious about the people that you're hanging around and who you're listening to and the beliefs that you're picking up on. Something that I guess this ties into self-worth and confidence, and I kind of use those interchangeably, is when we were younger, when we were young boys and gals, when we were in a safe environment, so let's say like even before probably we can remember when we were sort of 5 to 7 or 10 years old, and you were in a safe environment, so you weren't on fight or flight, you weren't nervous, you weren't anxious, you were just present and expressing yourself. You didn't care about people's opinions. You didn't have self-worth issues. You didn't struggle with confidence. You were just yourself. You were weird, silly, goofy, crazy. You were just being your authentic self. And when you're in that state, you take action. You don't give a shit about the consequences. You're like, fuck. So I think about like the kids that they just try shit because why not? Because they're just being themselves. They're being curious. They're being weird. But then it comes back to that conditioning that I was talking about, how, shut up, you sound like shit. You're a shit singer. You're a failure. Who do you think you are? Get back in your box. You'll never make it. And it's just all that conditioning that kind of ties back into, I guess, the original problem that you're talking about. But take action, get started, hang around the right people. I like to use the veteran frame. I got this from Hormozy as well that we were talking about before.
Alex Hormozy.
Represent. Followed him for about 4 years now. He's absolute rock star.
Oh wow.
I've come from the gym industry, so he was.
Of course.
So he one of the Burley studio that I sold last year is still on this street actually. But yeah, he uses this veteran frame. It's like, what would my 80-year-old self say to myself looking back at this problem? And if you just look at it through that lens, it's like, does it really fucking matter? Like when you're let's go a bit further, on your deathbed. You're on your deathbed. If you were to look back at your life right now and look at the problem that you're currently facing, you'd probably laugh at it. You're like, remember when I was too nervous to click record on the podcast? Remember when I was too nervous to go start that event or to run that program or to put myself out there or to ask that girl out or whatever it may be? So I like to, when in doubt, zoom out. So whenever I'm doubtful, I'm overwhelmed or I'm scared or I'm a bit fearful, I just zoom out. Okay, does this really matter in the long term? And nothing really matters in the whole scheme of things. In the next 1,000 years, no one's going to remember us. No one's going to know who we were. This podcast will be around if technology sticks around. But
yeah, boy.
Yeah. So, but like no one's going to know or remember who we are. So if the opinions of those people that you care about that's stopping you from taking action, they're going to die with them. Why are you letting them hold you back from doing what's meaningful to you right now? So that's kind of how I would tackle it. But action's the cure-all. Just take action. It's not as scary as you think it is. What's the worst case scenario? You learn something, and that's it. So
Huge.
I
agree with everything you just said, and this is shit that I always like tell other people, but I love the zoom out, and I love that nothing really matters. I always tell myself that in the most positive way possible. Like, when I first heard it, I was like, oh my God, nothing matters.
I'm worthless.
Yeah. And now I'm like, oh my God, nothing matters. It means I can just like send it. I pretend that I'm in like a game. You know, like when you're in Doodle Jump and you're like, well.
I haven't thought of that game in so long.
I don't know why I like to refer to life as Doodle Jump.
Doodle Jump. How good. I still love that game.
So I used to.
Yeah. Oh, you still play? Is it still around?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm not living.
You're not.
I'm not living.
No Uno, no Doodle Jump.
Jesus.
Anyway, I always think when I'm on that game, all I'm doing is I'm like, well, let's just try and get as high as we can. That's just what I like to look at with life.
Yeah. Just send it as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay. Whew, love that. Sorry, I'm really adjusting everything.
That's right. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to know, what are the most kind of common things that your clients come to you about?
There's kind of, I use the Buddha in a Benz, I guess, analogy. The Buddha is very fulfilled, very happy, very peaceful, come to terms with all its past, understands his or her values and purpose, kind of all the personal stuff. And then the Benz is like the business, sales, marketing, like commercial side. So it's like, it's generally one of those two. It's the personal side. The Buddha side is not lacking self-worth, got heaps of past shit they haven't let go of, they haven't healed through, struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, struggling with limiting beliefs. Their ego's out of control. That shows up a lot in relationships. Relationships probably shows up the most. So people come to me with problems in their relationship, but I fix it through other things. Like I fix in quotations. I help them with themselves, which improves their relationship. And then I call that chapter 1 is the personal stuff, who you are, work on your mental shit, your personal stuff. So you know who you are, where you're going, how you're getting there. And then the second chapter is for people that continue and want to go down this pathway is building a business, doing what you love. It's commercializing your purpose. It's that quote that I said before, when what you do is the full expression of who you are. So taking your purpose and figuring out if the answer is not to work for someone else, because that's where, I guess, depending on your personality type and I guess what your goals are, most people, I'd say 95% of people, to truly express their purpose, to truly live a life on their terms, most people will want to do their own thing. They'll want to run their business to some degree or have a vehicle that allows them to fully express themselves, whether it's a podcast like this. And then it's helping them do that. Like, how do you actually start a business? How do you go from idea and vision to building out the customer journey, building out your products, your upsells, your downsells, how to market, how to get people into a funnel, how to get them into sales calls, how to close a sales call, how to hire people, how to scale yourself out of the business and remove yourself from the business. Leadership, that's been a huge learning experience for me. Yeah, they're kind of the two general areas they come. So if it's personal, obviously there's a variety of things that comes up as, and then business, a little less emotional, but more sort of tactics and strategy. They're kind of the two reasons that people come to me.
That's awesome that you kind of have a really well-rounded, because then if somebody comes to you thinking that it's about personal but it's actually about business, you can pick up on that, or vice versa. Yeah. But you touched on self-worth. Yeah. This is something that I feel really passionate about, because I think when you have self-worth and self-belief and self-love, they're probably all the same thing, you can do so much because you go, well, in my head, I'm like, no, you deserve to go after your dreams and you deserve to do that. What are some things that people can do to kind of get into a place of self-worth?
It's a beautiful question. And I love that you're passionate about it. Generally we become the people we needed when we were at our lowest, and we generally teach the things that we needed to hear the most. So it's
that's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's I actually said the answer to this question earlier. It's the when you're your authentic self, that's when you have self-worth, that's when you are yourself. So you'll never be happy or have high levels of self-worth trying to be number 2 of someone else. If you're trying to wear a mask, impress others, put a mask on, put a persona on, try to be someone that you're not, you will never truly be happy. And that goes back to what I was saying, when you were younger and you were just expressing yourself, you're being authentically you. You're being yourself. You're being weird, silly, goofy. I was a very weird, interesting kid. You're a bit silly, but a bit silly with your vibe. So it's that's your inner child. You might have heard inner child work, or you might hear that term thrown around. So for me, true self-worth, it's not necessarily becoming someone, it's removing the things that aren't you. And I use the Statue of David quote that I probably use that a little bit too much, but it's the statue of Michelangelo. Are you familiar with the quote, Statue of David? Have you heard that before?
What's the quote?
It's when Michelangelo sculpted the Statue of David, and someone asked, how did you make such a beautiful piece of art? And he said, look, David, it was really easy. David was always there in the statue. I just had to remove everything that wasn't him. And when you apply that to yourself, it's like the high level of self-worth, the confident, the inspired, the energetic, the real authentic version of you. It's inside of you. It's just removing the things that aren't you. It's the ego, it's the wounds, it's the personas, it's the masks, it's the walls and the protection that we put up to protect us when we got hurt from mum or dad, or from ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends, or from bullies, or whatever it may be. It's just learning to remove all of that and letting the real statue of David shine through, which is you. So that's my version of self-worth anyways.
That is so beautiful. Do you know that David has a tiny pee-pee?
I have seen the statue, yes.
Me too. I was like, wow, that's really small.
Yeah. We love David.
Sorry, I just really felt compelled to do that.
You got to follow your intuition.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how do people kind of remove those layers?
That's a very good question. So
I know we can't get very specific.
So for me, there's a couple tools within that. The first one is probably trauma. That's probably the biggest one. So trauma is unprocessed memories. And that when I learned that, I was like, fuck, that's so simple. And that's very empowering too when you hear it. And so whenever you have a wound, I always use like an open wound on your arm. If I had a big open wound on my arm here, I don't have to tell my body to heal it, right? My body just has an intelligence. It wants to heal it, right? But when we have wounds in our head, we don't give our mind the opportunity or the environment to heal. Because how often do we actually focus on nothing but our own thoughts and let our thoughts breathe? This ties into journaling, this ties into meditation, this ties into stillness. Because most people are on social media, they're working, they've got boyfriends, they're socializing, and they're just not really giving themselves the time to heal. So I learned a little bit off track then, but
No, it's good.
The answer to remove the things that aren't you, it's healing those wounds, because this ties into ego. So your ego stands guard at the door of your wounds. So if you've got a wound around, and your values is actually where your insecurities are as well, where your wounds are. So if you value image, for example, if you've someone who takes pride in their image, they like to look good, they get their hair done, their nails done, they just really care a lot about how they look, you're also very insecure in that area. And that's because it's come from pain, because maybe someone commented on how you looked when you were younger, maybe you got compared to your siblings or your parents or something. Like there's been pain there or a void there, so you're filling that void, and it's important to you. And it's not good or bad, it is what it is. And it's actually your gifts if you lean into it that way. So say you've got a wound in that area. If I was to come up to you and say something really hurtful or mean in that area, it's like touching that wound is going to set you off. You're going to get triggered, your ego will show up, you'll get defensive, you'll attack, you'll compare, you'll justify, what other ways, you'll deny it. So the more wounds you have then, the more triggered you get, and therefore the more your ego is out, so you're more egocentric than authentic. So a way to remove the things that aren't you is by healing the parts that haven't been healed yet, so you're less triggered. A fully healed person that doesn't exist, everyone's still healing. I've done a lot of healing work. I've got a lot to go. Everyone does. And if everyone says, oh no, I've got no wounds, then you would never be triggered. Show me someone who's never triggered. I have yet to find one. We all do. And you'll get it most in your relationship. That's where most of the inner healing work will be done. So learn to hold space for your partner. That's a conversation that we can go into. And yeah, so inner healing work is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs is another one. So it's the beliefs that you're not good enough, I don't deserve love. It's just beliefs that hold you back. And some of them are harder to spot than others. So that's why I guess consciousness and awareness and obviously consciously working on this shit is quite important. So
and how to get a coach.
Yeah, get a coach.
Because yeah, I feel like you don't realize the shit that you're doing until somebody kind of calls you out, and 100%. You're like, okay.
Yeah, it's you're fucking spot on. Like you can't. Why does every great professional athlete, businessman or woman, or anyone just who's the best at what they do have coaches? Yeah, and they have coaches for different areas, for finances, for mindset, for finances, for their health, for their communication, for their relationship. It's you can't see outside of you, right? You can't. You're doing with the best with what you've got. We all are. Yeah. But when you've got someone who can. You're in the forest and you can only see the trees, where if the coach is above the forest, they can see everything. They can see, look, you're actually running the wrong direction. Go left instead of right. You can't see that. You can just see the trees. So absolutely get a coach. Highly recommend doing that and looking into that stuff and working on you. So yeah, wounds or trauma would be a big one. Limiting beliefs would be probably the second biggest one. Live into your values, that's, I guess, being your authentic self, would be the number one out of those three. What would be other ones? Probably just regulation tools would be a key with that, because the more highly emotional you are, the more volatile you are with your emotions, the less present and whole you are. Because it's like when you're really angry, you can't be grateful at the same time. You can't. It's like when you're having a fight with someone and you're really in a negative state, all you see is negative. You see that color everywhere. You paint the world that color. It's the quote that you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. So if you're angry or you're frustrated or you've just got a negative emotion that you're experiencing, that's the world that you see. But when you're neutral, you see both. Yeah. So it's like, I guess practice, regular regulation tools such as meditation, such as journaling, such as ice baths, such as stillness, such as just doing anything that fills your cups up, whatever is important to you. If you love reading, read. Go to the gym, exercise. Just do things that, just really, I guess, fill your cups up. Those would probably be the main tools. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm missing, but yeah, that would be a good start.
Yeah, I love that. I've been getting into, oh my gosh, I don't know his last name. Do you know Soul for Happy?
I've heard of the name, but
by Mo something, and he's like on a mission to make 1 billion people happy.
I've heard of the name, but I can't put a face to it right now.
Okay, anyway, he's amazing, and he kind of talks about similar things to you. It's just like at our core, we are happy and unconditionally loving people. And then it's like all the layers and masks and conditioning that we've been put on. And I really love that you're like unlearn particular things. That's like what I've been in the past like month especially. I feel like a newborn baby where I'm like unlearning things and reteaching things. Yeah. It's crazy. My mind's like, what?
I think you're like a computer. Like if you've got a computer with a virus on it, it's not going to run that well. It's going to shut down. It's going to overheat. It's going to open things it doesn't want to open. It's like you've got the same things. If you've got a virus in your computer, which is your mind, and it's going to do things you don't want to do, it's going to shut down. It's going to overheat. It's going to not run optimally. And it's not right or wrong. It's just, is that the result that you want? Do you want to be someone who just keeps self-sabotaging your relationships? Do you want to be someone who's always held back by your fear? There's no judgment whether that's right or wrong. It's just, it is what it is. It's perfect the way that it is. But you just got to ask, is that the life that I want to live? Is that the computer I want to have? Is that the coding I want to have? And if you just take that coding out of, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve it, or money is evil, or success is hard, or I don't deserve love, and you insert something else that's more empowering in there, it just runs differently. So I just kind of look at it like that. I'm like a game, just like a video game.
Yeah. How can this run the smoothest as possible and how I want?
Literally.
Okay. Can you remind me that I want to talk about self-sabotage?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. There's so many things in my brain right now. But what? Oh yeah, water break.
Water break. Yeah. Sip on water. Drink your water, kids.
ASMR.
I didn't hear that ASMR. I didn't hear what that was until this year.
Really?
Oh, sorry, last year. It was Savannah, if you listen to this. She like...
Thanks, Savannah.
She put on a speaker. I'm like, what is this? Like, people sleep to it. I'm like, really? Yeah. I was like...
Okay. Yeah, people like fully follow it and watch it.
Yeah, like, there was like YouTube videos on it. I'm like, this goes for like 3 hours. Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
And I'll have millions of views.
Yeah, I'm like, there you go.
There we go. So many ways to get wealthy. Yeah. Okay, before we talk about self-sabotage, what I would love to talk about is fulfillment. Because I heard Tony Robbins say this, and he was like, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And that has always like hit so hard. And I just always think about that because like you can go and get like a high paying job or a successful job and get the car and the, and have everything that looks successful. Yeah. But then if you're not like going towards the thing that lights your soul on fire, then you're going to feel unfulfilled. And then I guess that's why you see miserable millionaires.
Yeah.
So how can we avoid this?
You said it really beautifully. I love that quote from Tony, and he normally follows that up with the Robin Williams story. Like Robin Williams, like for most people know who he was, just incredible achiever. Like achieved like every award that you can. He won a Academy Award for not being funny, like his number one skill, and he won like the highest award for not his number one skill, and he took his own life. And he's like I guess one of the more tragic or I guess beautiful in a sense as an example of what doing the achievement route can lead to if you're not balancing out with the fulfillment, when you're not doing what you love and you're not doing what's meaningful to you. So I try not to sort of circle back to the same answer, but it's very aligned with the answers I've been given. It's understanding your values, your purpose, and doing that. I'd probably add on top of that, there's a great book. I'll share my story. I actually kind of followed this route, so there's a good little story on this. I was in the gym industry. That we were talking about that before. I got started when I was 18. I was just like hustle for like 6-7 years. Opened up 3 studios by age of 22. Had 3 times gym owner on my Instagram bio just for my ego, just to feel good about myself.
Nice.
To feel like I was the man. And I was just burnt out. I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I had depressional thoughts, suicidal thoughts, and I just wasn't happy. I just wasn't fulfilled. Even though I was achieving things, it just wasn't filling that void, because most people think it's the money or the car or the house or whatever it may be that can fulfill it. And then once I learned values, I learned purpose. Like, I literally sold 2 of the gyms. One of them is the one that's on the street from last year. And pursuing the coach and pursuing this, it's like, I just feel fucking alive. I feel like I have meaning. I feel happy. I feel fulfilled. And it's just getting rid of, I guess it ties back to ego, and I'll take a different angle with that. It's not getting over and stop attaching your worth or success to the money, to the cars, to the accumulation of whatever you're trying to accumulate. There's obviously that as a part that can be a measuring stick for how successful you are. But like we said at the start of this, none of this matters anyways. In the next 1,000 years, everything you accumulate is going to get distributed to the rest of the world anyways. It's like, you think you own your house, and the next 10 generations, someone else, another family is going to own it. All the wealth that you have in your bank account will be gone. Everything you accumulate will be dispersed again. Like, Hormozy again uses a beautiful example. Like, you're at the poker table. Have you heard that one? How you accumulate chips, you're playing the game of life. You're at a casino and you're playing poker, you're playing cards, and depending on the cards that you've dealt and how you play those cards, you're going to accumulate a certain amount of chips or accumulate a certain amount of goals or cars or houses or achievements. But sooner or later, the Grim Reaper taps you on the shoulder and says, your time's up. You don't get to take your chips with you. You push it all the way back into the middle, and it gets distributed to the rest of the world again.
Is that something that actually happens?
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Oh, okay. I was like, is that what happens in casinos?
Maybe if you're cheating. So it's like that just reaffirms the same lesson. It's like, we get so caught up with, and this book really changed my life. It's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's all about Taoism and living the way of the Tao. Really, really cool. And he uses this analogy of water. It's like, if I had a bowl of water right here in front of us, and I said, put your hands in there and try grab the water as hard as you can. Squeeze those hands, like get it, squeeze it, go harder, try harder. And the harder you squeeze it, what happens to the water?
It's crazy.
It's avoiding you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're pushing it away.
Yeah.
And if you use that, the more needy you are, the harder you try to achieve things, the less you actually get fulfilled, the less you actually attract it, the less you actually achieve. But there's also the balance. Does that mean I don't try and do anything then? I just sit back and do nothing? It's like, no. It's what's the fuel behind it? It's getting clear, what are you inspired to do? Be detached to it, meaning you don't actually need it, and then doing it out of inspiration instead of desperation. Because the more that you need, it's like, remember at school, and maybe you experience this, but generally there's a couple of people that are very needy friends, needy boyfriends, needy girlfriends, and they've just got that needy energy where they want to be around you, they need to be around you, they need your energy, they need your time. It's very repelling. And that's what people are doing with their goals. They need the money, they need the car, they need the success to be good enough, to be fulfilled, to be loved, to be successful. The more you need it, the more it's avoiding you. It's the mirage you never get to. It's the, I'll be happy once I have the money, once I have the car. And then you do it, it's like, okay, well, I'm here and it's not 1 million, now it's 10 million. And then you get there, okay, it's not 10 million, now it's 100 million. And I'm not saying don't set goals. I've got goals monetary-wise, impact-wise, wealth-wise. I have goals like that. But it's the difference between being needy of it and doing it because you're inspired to do it and you're drawn to do it, rather, I need to do this. And it's just, I always just ask the question, what's the fuel behind it? What's your fuel to actually get those goals? Is it, I need to do it. Why do you need to do it? Doesn't matter anyways. Once you're all said and done, it's going to be distributed to the rest of the world. So, yeah, I guess fulfillment comes back to, yes, living to your values, living to your purpose, doing what you love, having beautiful goals, having a beautiful vision that inspires you to go chase it, but at the same time, not be needy of it. One of the most powerful places to be in life is to know exactly what it is that you want and be totally okay not having it.
Ooh.
And if you just like think of a relationship. If you're desperate for your partner, they'll treat you like shit and you'll put up with it. But what if you don't need that relationship? What if you're like totally okay, look, I'm actually fucking whole myself. And if you treat me like shit, I'm okay walking away from this. And having that attitude with your goals, having that attitude with everything you do in life, it's beautiful. Because you don't need that money. You don't need that accumulation to be good enough. You're beautiful and perfect as in you have ups and downs, which is perfect. You are perfect exactly who you are. You don't need money to prove your worth, to prove what makes you lovable or good enough. That's just all ego and upbringing and conditioning and limiting beliefs that we've picked up, which is the layers on top of you that aren't you that we want to remove. So yeah, they kind of all tie into each other. But
Wow. I don't think I've ever been so speechless on a podcast before.
Thank you for going.
Wow. The energy in this room, I'm feeling it, and it's feeling amazing.
Feeling vibey. I'm feeling some water as well.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, another water break. Hydration station.
Do you have like a little light here? Like hydration station. Like ding.
Oh my gosh, I need that. Apparently you can pre-record stuff onto that button.
Oh, that'll be cute.
Imagine if it's like hydration station.
Hydration time.
Somebody was like, you should record a cricket.
A cricket.
So that if you want to make a guest feel uncomfortable and there's a silence, you just put a cricket.
Just keep hitting it. That's funny. I like that.
Okay. Woo. That was a lot in the best way possible.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we were talking about fulfillment and wow, my brain's just gone. Wow. We're talking about fulfillment.
Fulfillment, and then I tackled it from values, purpose, chase that, but also don't be attached to it.
Right, the don't attach bit. I really like that. So is that more just like feeling, and we do hear this word a lot, like abundant and like you don't need anything, but because you feel abundant, you're like attracting that?
Yeah, you can definitely tie into that. I probably haven't worded it like that before. I don't really know how to tackle it from that angle. So,
well, no, that's just something I've heard. But I do like the whole like have big goals and dream big, but don't be needy.
Yeah,
don't be desperate.
Yeah, because it's that desperation that's actually stopping you from getting it. And even if you've tangibly achieve it, I'd say you hit it. You've got a goal and you hit it. You hit the goal. Beautiful. It's not going to fulfill you. You've bought a new phone and you look after it really nicely for a week and then you're tossing it around every a couple of weeks later. It's like you get a new car. It's beautiful at the start. It's amazing. But eventually that shit gets old. So it's like, yes, have those inspiring goals. Go fucking chase it. Work your ass off. Grind. Do the work. Balance life as well. But it's just always what's the fuel behind it. That's what I always ask and what I look for.
I like that. And then I feel like the journey would be so much more fun because you're not like, I need this. When is it happening? When's it happening?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I love this. I feel like this is maybe how I'm going about life. I'm not sure. I'll reflect on it at home.
Epic.
But let's go to self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage, yes.
So this is why I actually originally got the coach that I have at the moment. Awesome. Because I just felt like I was reflecting on my actions and it felt like I would do all these things, get to this point and hit this imaginary glass ceiling and then self-sabotage and go back down. It was almost like I was like, holy fuck, we've changed so much. There's been so much growth. I want to tap out and go back to older Andy because that feels comfortable. Is that something you find with your clients, and why do we self-sabotage? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. There's I guess context of all the answers I've said today, or the things I've said today, there's always more than one way to skin a sheep, or skin a cat, I should say. There's skin a sheep. There's always there's always more than one answer to get to an end result. So the thought that comes to mind based on what you just said is that we always confirm the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So if you change the tactic, but you fundamentally don't change the way that you believe you are or how you view yourself, self-worth, self-image. So if you see yourself as someone who's shit at relationships, isn't worthy of love and doesn't deserve love, but then you tactically go out and start dating heaps of people and go on heaps of dates and you get into a relationship, but you haven't changed the belief in how you see yourself, you'll always come back to that. So if you don't see of someone who's worthy of the money, abundant with money, great with money, and worth billions of dollars, if you start to make some clients and start to make some sales and you've got some money in your bank account, you'll magically make that money go away. You'll buy something, make a shit investment, it will magically find its way out of your bank account. So that's definitely, I agree with the tactic that your coach has taken, which is really cool. So always look at the beliefs. Limiting beliefs is what we touched on before. So what's the beliefs that you have about yourself? Because we unconsciously or consciously have a blueprint or a skeleton of how we view ourselves in every area of life. What are your beliefs for yourself when it comes to your food? Are you a master of your food? Do you have control over your food? What about your health? Are you an athlete or are you a fucking slob? Like, just literally, if you have those, picture someone who sees themselves as an athlete and someone who sees themselves as a lazy slob. Those are two different people, two different actions, two different lives. Even like I went through COVID with 2 gyms, so I had a lot of real life experience with this. There was people in COVID when we had the shutdown, and we were doing the Zoom workouts and the online workouts, and we literally this is funny for COVID. We were in the gym, and literally you could train people half a meter outside of the gym in the car park, while the whole gym was just free. It was so silly.
Oh my God.
We won't go into that rabbit hole, but the point was the people that showed up and still did the Zoom workouts, still looked after their health, were the people who had that belief and image that they're someone that just looks after their health. So regardless if we're in a shutdown or if we're in a pandemic, or if it's fucking raining or if it's cold, if I don't feel like it, I'm someone who looks after my health, so I make it happen. So I like the analogy. It's like you're a mannequin and you're just changing outfits. So if you're not changing the mannequin and you're just changing the outfits, that's all the tactics, you're always going to come back to who you actually are deep down. So yeah, I definitely agree tackling those limiting beliefs and tackling that self-image of how you actually see yourself, because the strongest force in the human psyche is staying consistent with how we define ourselves or how we view ourselves or how we see ourselves. So definitely agree with your coach and the direction he or she was taking. And then secondly, what I'd add on top of that as well, it's values again. It's just conflict with values. Let's use an example. Say you value your relationship really highly. It's your highest value and you love your relationship. It means the most to you. It fulfills you. It's really meaningful to you. And then someone comes up to you and says, you look really shit. You should go to the gym. Should. Whenever you hear the words or use the words should, have to, ought to, got to, someone is putting their values on someone else.
Projecting.
So you value relationship higher than anything. It's number one. And then someone comes up to you and says, you should go to the gym because you look like shit and you should look after yourself. You should whatever. And then you feel shit, you feel guilty and you whatever. And then you're like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to go look after my health. And then you go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. And too much, you do 2 hours a day at the gym. But then it's taken away from your time with your relationship. You then feel guilty. Guilt is feedback that you're not prioritizing yourself. You're not prioritizing your own values. So then you beat yourself up, you feel guilty, and you self-sabotage, and you give up on those goals, and then you return to your hierarchy and back to your relationship. So it's just setting goals that aren't yours, essentially. It's setting goals in alignment with other people's values, not your own. But then some people will say, well, what if I want to look after my health and I want to improve that because I know it's important to me? There's exercises what we can do to fix that. But it's just getting clear on what your values are, not putting other people's expectations and values ahead of yours, and you'll stop self-sabotaging. If you literally just do that, like whenever I get invited to things, I always look at my calendar and say, am I inspired to do this? It's a good question to ask. You don't have to do anything. Whenever I hear someone, my partner, she doesn't do it anymore, but when we first started, I have to go to this party. Said who? Where's the rule that says you have to go? Are you inspired to go? Not really. Then why the fuck are you going? Like, if you feel guilty, if you feel low self-worth, if you feel unaligned, if you don't feel inspired, it's all feedback that you're not living in alignment with your values. That's why I've used the helmet values probably 20 times now on this podcast. They just tie into not everything. They just tie into so many things. So, yeah, it's setting goals based on someone else's values, not your own. And then you experience self-depreciation. You beat yourself up. You feel guilt. And then eventually you'll self-sabotage on those goals that weren't yours, and you'll come back to what your actual values are. Right.
So self-sabotage isn't bad?
It's not a bad thing. I don't think anything's bad or good. It's just, it is. It's good and bad in both of it. But it's not good. It's not good or bad. It's just returning to what your values are.
Just have your microphone. Sorry.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So you touched on guilt. What did you say guilt was?
Guilt's feedback that you're putting someone else's values ahead of your own.
Oh.
If you feel guilty for doing something, so say I work a lot. I love my mission. Coaching is my highest value. I love coaching. I'm at a podcast right now. It's Friday afternoon. I could be hanging out with my partner right now, for example. If I could be doing many other things than being here right now, but I want to be here. I'm inspired to be here. I wanted to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So it's, so say I felt guilty for being here. There's someone else's values I'm putting on top of me for being here. I should be going to the gym. I should be spending more time on my business. I should be spending time with my partner. There's someone else's or something else's, might be religion, might be society, it might be your parents, it might be your partners. Someone or someone else's values are trying, you're putting them on top of your own. You should, in quotations, do things that you fucking love. Like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like, as basic as that sounds. And most people, so, excuse me, I was in an event, and this is when I first learned values and like changed my life forever. And we're learning about values, and I was like, all these light bulbs are going off. And there was this gentleman in the room, and he's like, we just determined our values, and he's like, I feel really bad, like my family's not on here. It's like, why do you feel bad for not having family on your values? Well, aren't you meant to? According to who? According to his family. According to someone who had a high value on family. And I was there because I had the same. I didn't have family on there. I'm like, fuck, I must be a shit son. I might be a shit friend. It's like, just because you don't have a high value on family doesn't mean you don't love them. I love my family.
Yeah.
I'm going to see them after this podcast. But it's that guilt is you not being authentic, and it's you just putting other people's shit or values on top of you, or opinions or expectations. You can call it what you want. You're just putting other people's stuff on top of yourself. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, like your girlfriend, I used to struggle with events. I would say yes to every single event. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to go to this.
Yeah.
And then when I started saying no, thank you, I did feel guilty because in my head, I was like, I should go to this to be a supportive friend or like, you know?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. But what about if you've just genuinely done a shitty thing?
Like what?
Like you have said something mean to someone.
Was it truth?
I'm not pulling off any. I'm not thinking of any specific examples right now. What if you were like what if you suddenly were just like in a bad mood? Someone caught you in a bad mood, and you just go, "Can you just shut the F up?" And you're just really snappy with them.
What someone does is their shit. How you react to it is your shit.
Yeah. So would you, like, if I did that, I'd probably feel guilty for being mean to someone.
Yeah, I guess there's feedback back for yourself, but for the person, like, I would lean more towards, say you snapped at me right now. I'll put my mic here a little bit more. So say you just snapped at me right now.
Yeah.
And I took that really personally. I got really upset, and I went into a shell, and I went into my wounds. That's my stuff. If you were, back to, I said this earlier, like a fully healed person, which doesn't exist, could have the most hurtful things said to them, and they just sit there and get unaffected by it.
Right.
Why aren't you you could flip that lens around and be like, well, you just gave me an opportunity to hold space for you and to help you work through whatever you're going through. You just gave me an opportunity to be a better communicator. You just gave me an opportunity to read the room more and see that you're not okay and help you and support you through what you're going through. So thank you for that opportunity. But that's living through a lens that I live life, Jocko Willink. Any Jocko Willink? Do you
Love Jocko.
Like
4 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, insane. So extreme ownership, like one of the first books I read in leadership, really good. Like everything in life is your fault. And if you say something, which is your stuff, whatever you do is your stuff, how it hits me and affects me is my stuff. If you say something because you're having a bad moment, I don't have to get upset about it. I don't have to take it personally. I can just learn to appreciate that you've just had a moment. And isn't that, again, giving me an opportunity to be a great leader? Well, are you going to, like, if we take that angle that you were sort of asking the question around, it's like saying your partner snaps at you because they just got triggered or they're having a bad day. Do you just go and then sulk and cry about it all day? Like, is that the way that you'd like to handle that situation? If you're a team member, for any business owners that listen to this, if you've got a team member that snaps at you, are you just going to fucking cry about it and throw it back in their face? Or are you going to say, hey, look, man, obviously I felt a bit of vocal tension and a bit of emotion in what you said. Is everything okay? What's going on? Like, that's how I would personally take that. Like, again, like you're saying, you said something bad. I don't think anything's bad. Like, what is bad?
Ooh,
it wasn't meant to be said. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, it hurt that person. Words only hurt to the level that you believe it yourself.
Ooh.
That hit me big time. If I called you a smelly unicorn, it's probably not going to hit you.
I'm a unicorn.
You're like, oh my God, that hurt. It probably doesn't. You'd laugh about it because it's not true. But if I said, you're a effing bitch, you're a terrible whatever, fuck, and said something hurtful, it only hurts you to the level that you believe it.
Yeah.
If you didn't believe it, if you said, Lewis, you're the shittest coach on the planet and you don't care about people and your coaching is shit and it doesn't work and you're a scam artist, I would almost laugh. I'll be like, I know what I do for people. I've got the testimonials to show it. But if you're like, you said something that I've still got shit to work through and it triggers the wound in me because I actually believe it myself, then I'll probably snap back at you. So I don't think anything's bad to say.
That is so true. It's like you'll never defend what you're not.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like that. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, so true. Yeah. Like if somebody was like, you're a bitch or you're a horrible person, you'd be like, okay. But then if they said something that I'm like is an insecurity, then I'd be like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
And through that lens as well, like whatever triggers you most heals you the most because it triggers the wound that you haven't worked through. So I look at whoever triggers you or whatever triggers you the most gives you the most opportunity to do healing work. Because through the tools I teach there's triggers, there's trauma, traumatic reactions and triggers. The trigger is coming from a trauma. So if you figure out, okay, what triggered me? What have I been through specifically? What specifically is triggering me is the first question. Then what have I been through that is being triggered right now? And then you find, holy shit, when I was playing a game with my friend. Have you played, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book?
I love that book.
Have you played his board game, Cash Flow Quadrant? Really epic
game.
I
have when I was younger, but I don't remember.
It's epic. It's like Monopoly for adults. You got balance sheets, assets, liabilities, cash flow. It's really cool. It's like real life Monopoly. And we're playing the game, and you've got like pencils and rubbers because you literally got to write down your assets and all that stuff. And I was rubbing out my answer, and I was playing with a friend, Mason. I use this story all the time. He hates it, but it's all good. And he gets really I'm using my rubber, and he like tenses up really weirdly, like gets really like tense over it, and makes like a gross noise. I'm like, what the fuck was that? I was like, what was that over? He's like, I hate rubbers. I'm like, trigger. What do you mean? He's like, I hate the sound of it. I'm like, man, I cannot hear a fucking thing. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? I can't hear anything. He's like, I just hate rubbers. I said, brother, go with me with this. Where in your life was there a really painful moment you went through and there was a rubber present? And his eyes like bulged out of his head. And he's like, fuck, I was in year 5. He knew the teacher's name. I was in class. I was chewing on a rubber and the teacher got me up in front of the whole class for chewing on the rubber and humiliated me in front of the whole class and I cried in front of the class.
Oh.
Traumatic experience. And then we went through and I said, brother, what was the benefits of that experience? How did that serve you? How did that make you stronger? What did you learn from that? And we got up and it led to him being the great communicator. He's so good at helping people feel comfortable, to feel safe, to open up. That not just came from that, but that event helped him be great at that skill. And we helped him balance out that trauma that he had. And then the rubber no longer triggered him. So if you use the trigger as a warning sign, hey, there's a trauma here, come heal me, come process me, come work me out. And then once you heal it, you don't get triggered anymore. And that's where, back to the point, whatever triggers you the most will heal you the most because you can just go through and be like, fuck, I'm triggered right now. Regulate. Come back to neutral. Okay, what specifically triggered me? What have I been through that's been triggered in this moment? For me, like an example for me is I used to get triggered a lot from bullies at school. So I got bullied a fair bit. And it was like, well, what specifically gets me from bullies? It's like, it wasn't their hair, it wasn't their shoes, it wasn't what they said. It was like, it was their real toxic, tense, masculine energy. Where did that come from? It came from my dad. And my dad made me feel so uncomfortable. My dad punching holes through walls. My dad being really abusive towards my siblings and to my mum. So that energy triggered that in me. So great, where's the trauma? Let's go heal through that. And then when you heal through it, it doesn't affect you anymore. So I don't know where that came from.
Powerful.
Powerful stuff.
Very, very powerful. I think when you realize that like when you're feeling triggered, it's actually like a mirror.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is something that's unprocessed. Because I used to like get triggered by people and then avoid them because I thought that was a bad feeling and I thought it meant that I wasn't meant to be around them.
Yeah.
Like I think you can dislike people and feel a bit icky around them. Like sometimes I have gut feelings that some people, and this is just some people, most people I think have so much love in them and so much love to share, but you know, some people you're just like, ooh, I feel a bit icky.
Yeah.
That's different to like triggers.
Yeah.
Now, there is somebody in my life who I love with all my heart, but holy fuck, some of their things trigger the shit out of me. And now I'm always so curious. I'm like, okay, what is this thing? What is this thing? Isn't it so funny that some people have really big mirrors?
Yeah, it's life presents you with people and circumstances to show you parts of you that you haven't healed through or that you haven't learned to accept about you. Like you just said, it's a mirror. There's a piece of you in them that you haven't learned to accept about you. If you're judging someone for lying, where have you lied in your life? Everyone's lied, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're judging someone for being mean, where have you been mean in your life? You're judging someone for cheating, where have you cheated in your life? And you might not have done it in the same way. So another way to look at that is cheating's breaking trust. Where have you broken someone else's trust? Where have you broken your own trust? Mm-hmm. And it's just learning to accept that and see the piece of you in them, to remove the judgment, learn to love and appreciate. And then I think just a side note on what you're saying, I think some people take things a little bit too extreme sometimes. It's not like, because you're right, it's like sometimes you feel icky with people and sometimes they're triggering something that you can heal through. But also it's like, was that just feedback that they're not your people?
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
It's not like, okay, this person abuses the shit out of me, but I can just be grateful for it and be okay with it and heal through my shit. But it doesn't mean hang out with them still. If they're not the right vibe for you, if they're not good for your soul and good for your spirit and good for your future and good for your growth, I don't say hang out with them, but it's good to heal through what they can present you to heal through as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm mindful of time. This has flown by.
Hour and 5 already.
Literally flown by, which is great. You know, time flies when you're having fun. Yeehaw. I need to stop yeehawing. No, I don't.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you don't need to. So you're putting someone's communication value on you. Why don't you just be weird, silly, fucking quirky? Go for it.
Oh, I do. I've been yeehawing to every man and their dog.
Epic. Good.
Now I've forgotten the question. Hang on. Oh, yes. Okay. Another good Tony quote.
Big Tony Robbins.
I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. And also Peter Sage.
Peter Sage?
Do you know him?
No. What's he do?
Lewis, you need to, oh my God. He's, in my opinion, he's even better than Tony Robbins. You need to research him.
Yeah. What's he do?
He's like a life coach as well. He actually coached for Tony,
cool.
Tony's team for like a good maybe 10 years.
Is he the really tall dude?
He is quite tall, but...
Grey hair, older dude?
Yeah.
I had a guest speaker come and I think his name was Peter and he was from an ex-Tony rep. He was the best Tony rep there was in the US. He's really, really tall dude. I don't think it's the same.
He might be tall, but I've met him.
Anyways.
Anyway, he went to prison.
Okay.
And like he didn't actually do anything wrong. And he had the most beautiful mindset about it. He was like, I'm not coming in as a prisoner. I'm coming in as a secret agent of change. And maybe the people who need my work the most are actually on the inside.
That's a really cool perspective.
It is so cool. And he had a mastermind group at the time and he decided to write letters to them in time about how he was helping, how he was staying high energy, even though the frequency was so low. It is the best book I've ever read. It's called On Track. It's quite short, but you get to read his letters in thing. Anyway, I went off track, but anyway, back to Tony.
Tony's back.
Yeah, Tony's back. Big dog. He says proximity is power. Power. Can we digest that?
Yeah, for
sure. Not disinfect.
Yeah, dissect.
Dissect. Thank you.
Disinfect. I like that as well. I like
disinfect and dissect.
Let's do it.
That quote, what does it mean? And why is that potentially true?
Yeah, for sure. I keep watching that light behind you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a big Tony fan. So I went to UPW when I was 18.
Wait, what's that?
Unleash the Power Within. It's Tony's event.
Shut the front door. You saw Tony in the real life.
I got a short, not part of the story, but I'll share it anyways. I went to UPW when I was 18, and it's like I think $1,000 event, and I had no money at this time, by the way. And plus, you got to fly to Sydney, accommodation, all that stuff. Went to it. First proper self-development that I've ever done. Changed my life. Like learned about the triad, learned about 6 human needs, learned about just taking control of your life. Does like intervention. Who's suicidal? Put your hand up and he'll come over and talk to you, just like the movie. You've seen his documentary.
Oh, yeah.
So I've watched that many times. So, and at the end, he does like a big sales pitch to his next thing. And I had no money. And my mate said it's a $10,000 sale. And I literally have less than $100 in my bank account. I have not that money to me. And my friend's like, man, use my credit card. We're doing this. So I went up and he's like, first 200 people get to meet Tony. And I was literally like $199. Went up, met him. It was like a fangirl. I pedestaled Tony a lot back then. And I met him, and he went through, and you get to meet him for like 3 seconds. And I shook his hand. I couldn't say hello. I was like, and he just laughed and like kind of just shook my hand and patted me on the back and then walked past. But yes, met Tony for 3 seconds, shit my pants, pissed my pants in front of him. But yeah.
You're very cool. You played it cool.
I nailed it. Nailed it. So yeah, that was pretty funny. But proximity is power. Yes, I definitely agree with it. Even just getting around, you become who you hang with. I think we mentioned that earlier in the podcast, but just getting around the energy that's going to serve you. And sometimes that can be challenging, especially as an entrepreneur. If you're someone that's chasing goals, a lot of that shit can be lonely. Like there's a lot of days where you're just on your fucking computer, just tapping away, making calls, making sales, building your product. Like a lot of the days can be lonely as shit. So doing like what you're doing now, listening to a podcast, like consuming people, consuming not just the tactics, but their beliefs. What do they believe about themselves? What's their story? When you hear like Tony's story, how I'm literally doing a webinar at the moment. I'm using Tony's story because it fucking hit me when like he had 4 different dads. He was kicked out of his home when he was 17. His mum used to beat him and like beat his head up against the wall until he bled, pour liquid soap down his throat till he throw up because she thought he was lying even though he wasn't. And like kicked out of the home when he was 17 with no money, with only the clothes on his back, to be who he is today. And there's so many stories like that. Oprah Winfrey's story is fucking amazing. Do you know Oprah's story to the degree?
No.
I didn't realize that about Oprah. And Oprah, I love you. I would love to meet you one day. And
I'll meet her one day. She's watching this.
So like Oprah's story, I didn't realize. And I you know who Oprah is, but she was born to a 14-year-old mum. So her mum was 14, and that alone, like, look at the start. She was sexually assaulted 6 times before the age of 14, fell pregnant through one of those, gave birth to a stillborn child at 14. That's the start. Plus, in and out of foster care homes, her parents weren't there for her. She was fired from jobs because of the color of her skin and the size of her. Obviously, growing up in America with her, when she did with her colored skin, like, she went through more than most people. And look who she is. And you just hear story after story after story after story of that. Man's Search for Meaning, the book, if you've read that, Viktor Frankl went through one of the most sold self-development books, really, really little book as well. You can finish that in an afternoon. And like Viktor Frankl went through a concentration camp in World War II. His brother, mother, father, and sister all were killed in the gas chambers. He went through it for 3 years of different camps. He had like one piece of bread. He shares experiences from the camp in the book. One piece of bread to eat for 3 days. If someone drops dead next to you, you keep walking. You'd sleep in a room the size of this sort of podcast room with like 40 people. So you've got to stand upright with like your neck kind of on people's shoulders. Like it was horrific. Obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the stories that happened in the World War II experience. He comes out the end of it. He does survive. He's a rare survivor. And he comes out the other side with gratitude and meaning to give back and help people because of what he went through.
Wow.
So it's like your past doesn't dictate your future, etc. And I guess I've gotten off topic of the question, but by listening to people, listening to books, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to events, hiring coaches, you're getting around them, yes, for the tactics, yes, for what they can teach you, how to sell, how to market, how to communicate, all that good stuff. But you're also picking up their beliefs. What are their beliefs that they have? Because back to what we were talking about before, you always confirm your beliefs. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. That's Henry Ford from years and years ago. And it's picking up their beliefs. What do they believe in? How do they take action? How do they see themselves? And obviously, seeing what's possible. When you see someone who's done something that you're wanting to do, it's possible. It's the 4-minute mile. Robert Bannister, when he ran the 4-minute mile, couldn't be done for years. It's impossible. It's genetically impossible. He breaks the 4-minute mile. And then hundreds, I think thousands of people do it now. But it was impossible until someone did it. So I think proximity is so important for all of those reasons. You're picking up their beliefs. You're picking up their energy, their confidence. Like we're talking about self-worth. And if you hang around people with high levels of self-worth, you're going to have good self-worth. Obviously, there's the tactics. But yeah, it just makes things possible. When you see someone who's building a business the way that you want to do it and they're doing it, you're like, fuck, if they can do it, why can't I?
Yes.
So, yeah, I think there's so much truth in that, but yeah, there's a lot in that.
Yeah. So choose the people you hang out with carefully.
100%.
What about who you live with as well? Because you're spending a lot of time there.
Yeah, it definitely ties into it. I think I read this recently. It's like a graph of like the people you spend time with, and it's like friends and everything goes like super downhill after school, and as you get older, it gets less and less. So, excuse me, the cough has made it all the way to the end. So the friends go down and down and down. Family goes down and down and down. Besides kids, like your own, obviously, children that you have, and the only one that goes up and up and up is your relationship. Your relationship is who you will spend more time with anyone. So the single, I don't know who said this, but it's like the single best decision or most important decision you'll ever make is your life partner. Because in terms of who you hang around with the most, they're number one by a long shot. Not like a little bit, like exponentially more. So definitely who you live with. If you've got roommates, of course, like I remember when I moved out of home, I moved into a $150 a week shared house. I had my little ensuite, so like I never really saw my roommate. She was a nice person anyway. She was really lovely. But I remember I just had affirmations up on the wall, had podcasts playing every single second I could outside of working, because it's just like I was just conditioning myself to become the person I needed to be to have the things that I wanted to have. So just creating your proximity, your environment of success is best that you can, because you might not have access to go hang out with Tony Robbins, right? You don't, like, his events can be expensive. Like $1,000 is kind of minimum buy-in for an event with Tony, and that's kind of standard across the board for self-development. Like his biggest event is $10,000, his Date with Destiny event. And for people in self-development, that's, I guess, kind of regular prices for what you're looking for. But if you haven't got that, like what you're doing now, you're listening to a podcast, you've got books. Obviously, audit the people that you're hanging out with. Obviously, depending on your personal living situation, if you're living with people that probably aren't the best for your mindset and good for your proximity, look at moving out or look at setting boundaries. Literally brainwash yourself for positivity. I love that. I love that line. I don't know who told me that a while ago. Like literally, if I was I've been here before. Like I used to live with my parents, obviously back when I was younger, and I remember. When I was sort of just sort of started the self-development journey, like I love my parents, I love my mum, I love my dad and all that, but they're not into self-development, they're not reading books, they're not doing the inner work like I am. And like, it was just hard just being at home because and they weren't doing anything intentionally wrong, but they're just like watching TV, smoking cigarettes, eating shit food. It's just like, it just wasn't serving me for where I wanted to go. So I just remember most of the time that I was home, I just literally had AirPods in, headphones in, listen to podcasts. Obviously talk to them and say hello to them when I see them, but I'll just literally build my own little environment for positivity, for growth, for self-development, because whatever you consume, whether it's people, their words, their beliefs, their energy, you're going to become that. You become what you obviously hang around, but you become what you consume. So you've got to be fucking conscious of that shit.
Yes. Mute people on Instagram.
Yes. Big tick.
Yes. Love. Okay, the last thing I have to ask for you, wow, my words, is, sorry, I'm just checking time. I've got a game show at 7:30.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I do team building stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah,
really cool.
It's really fun. Anyway, but we've got plenty of time. But what I wanted to ask is, when you first started coaching, how the heck did you do that? You're like, hey guys.
Hey, want to give me some money?
So I'm running this course.
Excuse me.
He's got COVID.
Yeah, so I was
I'm kidding.
Variant number 37.
Nice.
Whatever's coming out. Look, I came from the fitness industry, so I had that sort of chapter of my life, which was about 8 years of. I was coaching people, obviously coaching through training, through nutrition, through health and fitness goals. A lot of my consult ended up becoming life consults, life coaching consults. I remember I'd do a sales consult with someone, and then would end up getting onto trauma and like doing like a full breakthrough, and people like walking away in tears in good reasons, like, oh my god, that changed my life. They signed up, obviously. So so I had a lot of experience coaching people indirectly through mental and I guess the mindset stuff that I've done. I guess your first client is you. You are your first client. You help yourself before you can help anyone else. So I guess I've been on my self-development journey for about coming up to 10 years now. And obviously doing things like doing events, doing courses, doing books, doing podcasts, and obviously all that good stuff. I guess, how did I start? Are you looking for more like the tactics? Like how do I start taking on clients? How did I start talking to people? I want to answer this in a way that's going to serve you and your audience.
Like there's quite a few online coaches in the Gold Coast community.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot on the Gold Coast. There's a lot.
There are. And it's funny because it feels like, oh my God, every second person is a mindset coach.
Yeah.
But that's not true. Yeah. It's just because we're on the Gold Coast and the Gold Coast is very unique.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you leave and everyone's like, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so people are getting people on board and doing their programs, right? How did you start being like, hey, this is a program I have. You want to join?
Yeah, I guess for me it starts with, I've been posting content for about 10 years. Like I've been posting a shitload of content.
You got a lot of followers.
Yeah, I had a good growth spurt last year, and then I was too needy of it, and that's why I got hacked. I believe I attracted that into my life.
You got hacked?
Yeah, I was growing at about 2,500 followers a day.
Holy shit.
I was reaching 8 million people a day.
What?
Everyone was sharing my stuff around.
How many followers did you have?
I went from 24,000 to 100,000 in 2 months. So it was growing really quick. And I was at 99.7 and someone hacked it. And all the growth died. And it's grown a little bit. I'm up to about 111 now. But yeah, I'm losing a little bit per day. But I was needy of it. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm growing. I'm going to be so famous. I'm going to help all these people. And I was needy of it. And I attracted someone to hack it. 100%.
Wow.
I absolutely, because I was checking it every day. Oh my God, I was growing like 100 an hour. Oh my God, and I was needy of it, and it got taken away.
Wow.
So that kind of ties into the lesson I was talking about before.
So now, are you just like trying to just put good content out there?
Yeah,
and
just
not
focus on just help people. What can I do to help people? What can I do to inspire people? What can I do to help people change? But to answer your question, I've been obviously posting content for a long time, and doing stuff that helps me and helps others. I guess how do you get started is help yourself first. As a coach, you want to learn how to productize you, and that's a process we can talk about maybe another podcast. But it's taking your magic sauce as a coach, because that's as a coach that you've got some frameworks or some thoughts or some ways of thinking or some tools that allow you to get a certain result, right? And most people as coaches, they just kind of wing it. I got a new client that I've been working with for about a month now. And then I asked her, I said, hey, look, I would love to know just some feedback. What made you want to come with me? And she's like, honestly, she works for a mindset coach, which is quite funny. And then she's like, and I had like these other couple that I was looking into, but honestly, you've got like, I showed her, I've got an inspired life method, which I go from A to Z, and I take them through this framework and these tools and these steps to get to a certain point. And she's like, I just love that you've got a method to you. You've got tools and a framework and a step-by-step process to get a result with people. Where these other guys I was talking to, I asked them, like, hey, what's this journey going to look like? They're like, look, I just kind of do it. I'm the coach. I know it all and I do it. And there's truth to that. As a good coach, you need to be able to know your stuff off by heart and be able to implement it. But for me, what's served me anyways as a coach is being able to take what you know and what you're good at, whether it's your communication or your questions that you ask or the tools or the frameworks or whatever you're doing. Like I'm talking about purpose for me anyways, purpose, values, mission, vision, ego, anxiety, depression, self-worth, judgment, meditation, mastering perceptions, trauma, traumatic reactions, triggers, and planning. And I bottle that up into a formula. I bottle that up into a project, into a course, into a method. And then you start helping people with free for it. So you start, that's like any profession, you generally start for free. I was, I guess, grateful for the journey that I went through with the gyms is because I kind of been trialing that for 8 years. I've been helping people with this. I've been doing, I guess, little breakthroughs with people for 8 years through the gyms. I was running mindset masteries. I'd run little mindset events at the gym just to practice. And I just fucking love doing it because I was inspired to do it. And I would, when I first started, when I sold the gym that's on this street, I sold that last year. So about pretty much a year ago, almost to the day. was probably about 10 months ago. So for 10 months, I've actually been doing this full time. And I guess once that was sold and done and the deal was done and I dove into it, I guess I just started putting out to the public saying, hey guys, look, I've been obviously posting content for a long time. I'm finally at the point where I'm going to start taking on clients. So I just started to say, are you if you're someone who wants to work on X, Y, Z, let's jump on a free call. Let's connect and see what I can do to help you. So I just started jumping on strategy calls with people, connecting with them, and just being pure with my intention. Look, I'm here to genuinely serve you. If I can't help you, I don't want to waste your time. If we're not the right fit for each other, I'll try to recommend someone else, or maybe a book, or maybe a podcast that I think would serve you. And then through obviously talking to people, continuing to learn and grow, because I'll read a book, I'm like, fuck, that's epic. That's going into my method. That's awesome. I'm going to add that in there and always improve it. But by just talking to people, caring for people, productizing my coaching, putting what I do into a formula, into a step-by-step process that gets a result, just like a recipe for a cake. What recipe for me takes someone from who's unconscious, not inspired, not loving their life, to being fully conscious of their values, purpose, mission. They're clear on where they're going in. They've got all the mental and emotional tools to get there. How do you go from A to Z? And what are the stepping stones to get them there? And then for me, I guess this is probably my pain point as a coach right now, is just my constant lead to sales process. So getting people constantly coming through the pipeline to get them into my product, into my program, because I can do it one-on-one. I can sell people one-on-one, but I want to help a lot of people. I want to help millions of people. So like Tony, back to Tony, he did his UPW online last year, one of them, and he had 1 million people on one of them. I'm like, oh my God.
That is crazy.
That's fucking crazy. Inspiring as shit. I'm like, I can't do that doing just one-on-one sales calls. Like, you just can't do that, right? Like, I had one today. We weren't the right fit for each other, but I added some value where I could. But it's like, even if I do fucking 10 a day, I'm never going to get to that number, right? So there's like, obviously there needs to be a better strategy. So I'm currently working on that at the moment. But I guess how I started was productizing, taking everything that's in my mind and mapping it out. And that took me a couple of months to put together my method. Obviously talking to people saying, hey, look, I help people in XYZ, letting people know what you do. Hey, I help people in these areas with anxiety, with confidence, with self-worth, with direction, with trauma, with whatever it may be. Is that something that, are any of those things that you want to work through or something that you want to improve on? Awesome. Let's jump on a call. Here's a link. Let's book in. Let's jump on a call. I've obviously got a sales process. I've been doing sales for a long time. And then I use this term all the time in business. You build the plane while you fly it. So you fix the plane as you fly it. You got to keep going. You got bills to pay. You got people to help. You got to keep flying the plane, but you're always fixing the plane, upgrading the sales process, upgrading the marketing, upgrading your product. So you're constantly fixing the plane while you're constantly flying the plane. So yeah, I've been doing it for about 10 months now and enjoying the shit out of it, really enjoying it.
Nice. And do you have a coach?
I have many coaches. I don't have any one-on-one coaches as of now. I'm doing a lot of Russell Brunson stuff. So yeah, cool. I do a lot of reading. So the last coach I had was last year, and that was more a leadership coach for me. I've still got one of the studios that I actively lead. So it's more so how to be a better leader for my team. That was my last coach. I'm looking at getting a breathwork coach now because I want to incorporate breathwork into my work. Another tool to add into my method. So I'm actually organising that at the moment. So I'm about to go get a coach to I guess train me on breathwork and how to incorporate that. So that's going to be my next little learning experience. But yeah,
you found someone? Because I know someone.
Oh, we'll Michael, if that rings a bell, if that's who you're thinking of.
Michael, no,
not Mikey. So I asked for a friend for a referral, but if you've got other referrals, I'm weighing up who to go with. So yeah, open up to referrals, that's for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for this. 1 hour and 26 minutes. I love this. Usually it's like 45 minutes to an hour, but when they're juicy,
when they're on, they're on.
They're on. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your energy, and I can feel your genuine care and just wanting to help people.
Thank you.
And that is beautiful. And I feel extremely re-energized. I don't know if it shows, but I'm usually not an evening person. Like at 3 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for bed.
Yeah.
But I'm fully on right now. And I think that's through your energy.
I think you value learning. So
I do. We all value learning and growing together. That's what Attitudes with Andy is all about.
Absolutely.
Yeehaw. Well, if the people want to find you and learn from you, where can they find you?
Instagram's probably the best, but just whatever platform I guess works best for you. But Lewis Huckstep, excuse me, it's a pretty unique name. It's on most platforms. So mainly Instagram. I check all of those DMs I'm a bit slow sometimes, but I do check them all. So Instagram, probably number one. Facebook, probably second from there. Just Lewis Huckstep, whatever platform is familiar to you, you'll probably find me there.
Perfect. And he also has a podcast. What's your podcast called?
The Lewis Huckstep Experience. Pretty original over here.
We're keeping it simple. We love that. Thank you guys for listening. I really do appreciate that. If you enjoyed it, feel free to screenshot it, put it on your story, tag us. My Instagram is @andy.bentley_. It really, really does help spread the good word of the podcast. And I love seeing who's listening and from where. And you can also leave a review if you're feeling crazy and click the follow and subscribe button.
Right now.
We have 340 subscribers right now, which is really exciting. So thank you, everyone. You guys are amazing. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next week for another episode. Wait, I just realized this is the last episode of season 3.
What a way to finish.
What a way to finish. Okay, well, we still have mini episodes for the next month. Yeah. You won't have any guests, but the guests for season 4 are juicy AF, and I'm very excited. So thank you guys, I'll see you next week for a mini episode. I love you and goodbye.
Bye.